Right now, today, there is a version of you about to make a fatal mistake. It is not because you are weak. It is not because you are naive. It is because you were raised to believe a lie. The lie that generosity is always a virtue. That sacrifice is always noble. That loyalty means standing by someone blindly, no matter the cost. What if the most loyal thing you have ever done is actually the exact thing destroying your life? Niccolo Machiavelli did not just theorize about power. He watched it. He watched empires fall. He watched alliances crumble. He watched brilliant, capable people hand over their freedom piece by piece, one kind gesture at a time. He identified 5 specific behaviors. They look like love. They look like kindness. But they function like slow poison. And by the end of this video, you will see the trap. You will know exactly how to disarm it before the damage becomes permanent. Most mistakes can be fixed. You apologize. You fix the issue. You move on. These 5 are different. They do not just create temporary arguments. They shift the tectonic plates of a relationship. Once that shift happens, there is no going back. Here is the dark psychology behind it. When you do something significant for someone repeatedly, you are not just helping. You are rewriting the rules. You are setting an expectation. And human nature dictates that repeated expectations instantly morph into entitlements. The person who always pays becomes expected to pay. The person who always rescues becomes responsible for the crisis. The person who always says yes becomes a person who is no longer allowed to say no. These laws are never written down. They are never spoken aloud. They form in the shadows of the mind, solidifying into the unseen architecture of your daily interactions. By the time you realize you are trapped, you have already lost. These 5 specific acts do not just create bad habits. They transfer power, real, measurable leverage, from your hands into theirs. And unlike a minor misunderstanding, transferred power never willingly returns to its source. You either refuse to surrender it at the start, or you accept that you are no longer the master of your own destiny. The first rule is broken every single second. Because everyone believes their situation is the exception, it is not. The exact moment you lend money to someone in your social circle, the money ceases to be currency. It becomes a psychological weapon. The relationship alters instantly. You are no longer equals. You are the creditor. They are the debtor. Every single conversation from that second forward is filtered through a heavy, unexpressed tension. Picture it. You lend a close friend money during a rough patch. They swear they will return it in 3 months. 3 months pass. Silence. Now, the poison begins to work. You avoid bringing it up because you do not want to seem small-minded. But the debt is a ghost sitting at the table. You notice their new clothes. You notice when they order a drink. You notice when they upgrade their phone. And they know you are watching. To escape the crushing guilt of looking at you, they start to avoid you. They pull away. They get defensive over small things. Or, worse, their mind performs a dangerous psychological trick. To protect their own ego, they quietly reframe your loan as a gift. They convince themselves you did not need it anyway. Suddenly, you have lost the cash, and you have lost the person. Even if they hand every cent back, the scar remains. The innocence of the friendship is dead. Machiavelli watched this exact mechanism dismantle nations. The debtor prince always grows to hate the creditor prince. Because debt is an explicit symbol of inferiority. Here is the clean, unyielding truth. If someone you care about is drowning and you can afford to step in, give it. As a gift, not a loan. Write it off the moment it leaves your palms. If they never pay you back, your mind is at peace. If they waste it, your boundaries remain intact. But if you cannot afford to lose that money completely without feeling a sting of resentment, then you cannot afford to help. That is not malice. That is the ultimate form of self-preservation. The second mistake feels like the ultimate act of devotion. It is actually psychological suicide. Never make yourself infinitely available to anyone. We are taught that being there 24 hours a day proves value. That dropping everything shows depth of care. But the human brain is wired to despise abundance. It is hardwired to worship scarcity. Consider water. It is the absolute prerequisite for human survival. Yet, Because it flows freely from the tap, you throw it away. You do not revere it. You leave it running without a thought. Your time operates under the exact same law. When you answer every call on the first ring, when you shift your calendar for their convenience, when your answer is always an eager yes, you send a loud signal. You are telling them your time has zero competing value. And humans treat valueless things with utter disrespect. They will cancel on you at the last minute. They will show up late. They will demand pieces of your life they would never dare ask from someone who has boundaries. And then comes the darkest twist of human behavior. They will begin to resent your availability. Because constant availability smells like desperation. It feels like an unspoken weight, an obligation pressing down on them. Machiavelli noted this in rulers who kept their doors open to all citizens at all times. They were not loved. They were overwhelmed by trivial complaints and viewed as fundamentally weak. The rulers who strictly rationed their presence were respected, because access to them was a rare prize. This is true in your career. It is true in your romance. It is true in your closest circles. The partner who has absolutely nothing going on outside the relationship becomes a cage. The employee who says yes to every midnight email sees their career stall. Selective availability is not an underhanded game. It is a reflection of reality. You have a purpose. You have a mountain to climb. You have a private mind to protect. You are not always free. And that boundary is exactly what makes your presence worth holding on to. Number 3 is a massive psychological trap. It catches the smartest people because it wears the mask of empathy. There is a line in the sand between supporting someone and owning their catastrophe. Supporting means standing on the sidelines offering strength while they pull themselves out of the dirt. Owning means jumping into the pit, taking the shovel, and declaring that you will fix it for them. The moment you cross that line, a devastating psychological chain reaction begins. First, they immediately stop trying. Why wouldn't they? You have volunteered to carry the weight. Your desperate desire to save them completely paralyzes their own survival instinct. Second, you will fail. You cannot fix their life because you do not control the variables. You cannot force them to change their habits, their mindset, or their choices. You have taken accountability for an impossible equation. You have taken accountability for an impossible equation. Third, when the situation inevitably crashes, you get the blame. They will look at you with quiet resentment because you promised a rescue you could not deliver. Fourth, you create a monster. You become the designated landfill for their emotional garbage. The next time their life catches fire, they will not look for water. They will look for you. Machiavelli observed the counselors of kings ruin themselves this exact way. The advisor who took ultimate ownership of the king's blunders was executed when the plan failed. The advisor who kept the responsibility firmly on the king's crown survived. You can offer tools. You can offer clear guidance. You can offer a shoulder to lean on. But the problem must remain theirs. They must feel the heat of the flames. Because that discomfort is the only force powerful enough to trigger real human evolution. The fourth rule sounds like an act of betrayal to the untrained mind. In reality, it is the only way to save your reputation. Never defend someone when they are completely, visibly in the wrong. When you throw your shield over a person who has committed a clear injustice, you destroy 3 things simultaneously. First, you murder your own credibility. The room sees the truth. When you stand up and defend the lie, the world draws a cold conclusion. Either you are blind and your judgment is useless, or you see the truth and you are choosing to lie. Both conclusions ruin your standing. Second, you become an enabler. By absorbing the social impact of their bad behavior, you remove the pain that forces self-reflection. You ensure they will commit the exact same offense tomorrow. Third, you lose their respect. This is the truth most people miss. Deep down, the wrongdoer knows they crossed the line. When you blindly validate them anyway, they realize your loyalty is cheap. It is not based on honor, truth, or character. It is automatic. And humans never value things that come automatically. They will stop trusting your advice because they know you are merely an echo chamber for their worst impulses. Machiavelli analyzed treaties where an empire defended a corrupt, reckless ally. The loyal empire lost its standing with every surrounding nation, while the reckless ally grew bolder, eventually dragging both of them into a war they could not win. The healthy standard is unyielding. You protect your people fiercely when they are unjustly attacked. But when they are wrong, you stay silent publicly. And privately, with absolute clarity, you look them in the eye and tell them they made a mistake. The final rule is the most vital. Violating this is how great minds end up completely hollowed out. Never sacrifice your core interests for the temporary benefit of another. Your career trajectory, your financial foundation, your mental stability, your physical health, your deepest values. These are not chips you play on someone else's table. They are the non-negotiable pillars of your existence. Yet, we are conditioned to believe that destroying ourselves for someone else is the highest proof of love. It is not love. It is a slow, agonizing trade. When you sacrifice an essential part of your foundation, the initial moment feels incredibly noble. You feel like a martyr. But as the months pass, that sacrificed dream begins to rot inside your mind. It transforms into bitter, unexpressed resentment. You start keeping a hidden scorecard. You remember every opportunity you turned down, every dollar you gave away, every boundary you lowered. But they never asked you to destroy yourself. You volunteered. Now, you secretly hate them for a choice you made, and they feel the toxic radiation of your bitterness without understanding why. Machiavelli watched rulers hand over strategic fortresses to appease allies. The allies eventually betrayed them anyway, leaving the rulers with zero defense and zero friends. The lesson is stark. Build your fortress first. You can be immensely generous from your surplus. You cannot give from your foundations. Keep your core intact. Keep your health, your money, your focus, and your vision locked down. Only when your cup is overflowing do you share the wealth. That is not coldness. That is the only logical way to remain strong enough to matter. Let us bring the architecture together. Never lend cash. Either give it with an open heart or close your fist completely. Never make yourself fully available. If your time is limitless, your value is zero. Never own their crises. Guide them, but make them carry their own cross. Never defend their clear wrongs. Blind loyalty is a mutual suicide pact. Never butcher your core. Protect the roots so the branches can provide shade. These are not the tactics of a heartless villain. These are the laws of lasting power and profound respect. Machiavelli was not a cynic. He was a realist. He understood that relationships that stand the test of time are never built on endless sacrifice or the surrender of self. They are built on straight lines, clear boundaries, and mutual strength. Protect these 5 domains, not because you want to push people away, but because you intend to be strong enough to keep them there.